have no idea who he was going into the last couple weeks, but now I'm starting to hear that name around more. So I think he's coming into his own.
So clearly these were your relatives that live in the caves?
No, I have those relatives where I'm using quotation marks, football fans.
Okay.
That are not necessarily football fans. They would turn on the TV and watch it every now and then. They still think Jim Kelly's the best quarterback in the league. So
I don't think that Ryan Tannehill's season is being talked about enough, personally. Because if you dig into it, you look at the season he's having, he's completing 65% of his passes. He's thrown 17 touchdowns, only 7 picks. His QB rating of 92.2. For a guy that coming into the season, no one knew exactly whether he was even going to be the starter by the end of the season or if the Dolphins were going to look elsewhere in the offseason. The win-loss may not be there. 6-4 is what it is. But I don't think you can really pin any, if much, on the quarterback position in Miami. I think Ryan Tannehill is very slowly establishing himself as, he's stabilizing the quarterback position in Miami to the point where they don't have to think about it next year in the offseason, I don't think.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
my
that's
God.
really, yeah. If they could work on, they've got a nice set of wide receivers, but if they could, I think they could use one more big time playmaker, and certainly their running game. It's their running game that continues to sort of, they're going as their running game goes, I think. No, actually, they're going as their defense goes, but if their running game was there, they would be such a great team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. I would agree. The St. Louis Rams beat the Denver Broncos 22-7. The Broncos only scored 7 points. So, Jim, what's your take on this game?
Wow, this is a game that the Broncos did not show up. The Rams played them tough. It seemed like Peyton Manning didn't have time to do much of anything. He had people up in his face. It's a shame for the Rams because, if this is the kind of team they are, and we haven't seen it week in, week out up to this point, it's just so disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I did pick the Rams in this game, and the reason I picked them is I knew Denver was having issues with injury and running back, and just like the we were talking about the Bills, the thing that hurt Denver is they were a one-trick pony in this game. They had 0 running attack, and so it was all Peyton Manning. So all the Rams had to do with their incredible defense that they have is just send everyone against Peyton. And he, as everyone knows, just same as Brady, if you pressure him enough, he turns from a great quarterback to a good quarterback. And he was having some serious issues with the pressure. They were all over him. And he was hurrying passes. What's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I would say he was rushing passes, and I know Keith mentioned this a couple times, but I noticed that even more in this game, Peyton has lost a lot of zip on that ball. Even that touchdown pass he had to Sanders, he put everything he could into that football to get it out there. And it was kind of weird because I don't think I've really noticed it until this game. Like he doesn't have a zip on the ball anymore. He's kind of throwing up ducks. Every now and then he'll put one in there, but for the most part, it's a lot of lobbed balls. And I don't know if a lot of that had to do with the pressure that was put on him or if it's just age catching up with him. But I just noticed it more this week. I don't know if it was just me or not.
Oh, my God, this is coming full circle. First, you guys both agree with me on the last point, and now Steve is bringing up a point I brought up weeks ago and was poo-pooed on.
Well, like I said, I didn't really notice it that much.
I think you should be poo-pooed on it. I think you should be poo-pooed on it. Look, they lost Julius Thomas early in the game. Manuel Sanders was good enough for 100 yards and a score on one deep pass, and then they lost him in the game on a tremendous it wasn't a caught ball, but it would have been a tremendous catch had he caught it. And then you have Wes Welker that's got to step in and fill in, who hasn't really been a big part of the offense. Jacob Tamme, he's got to step in it and do something. He's not a big part of the offense. It's just one of these things that sort of adds up. And I think the Rams, like I said, they made Peyton Manning feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not too much you can say about that. It was sort of like what the Seahawks had done to him.
54 passing attempts is high for anybody, even Peyton Manning, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's Peyton and all. I'm not taking anything away from him. Don't get me wrong. But he still completed 34 of them. But when you got to throw the ball that much, I don't know. Jim, from a fantasy standpoint, C.J. Anderson, are you buying or selling?
Oh, I'm buying him. Absolutely. And you need to be buying him for two reasons. And those two reasons are Ronnie Hillman and Monty Ball, both out for at least a few, 2, 3, 4 weeks. I mean, they need a rushing game, and he's going to be the guy. There is nobody behind him. Nobody behind him. So you have to buy and pick him up. You can start him as an RB2 or certainly a flex player.
So he would be great opposite Le'Veon Bell going into the playoffs, is what you're saying.
I think he'd be nice.
Okay. Because he's on my bench.
I love how everything sort of works back to your fantasy team.
Yeah,
but that's
does.
okay.
It does.
It's a great question. I'm buying.
Okay, good. Phew. I feel bad.
See, I got a question for you guys. There's been a lot of talk today about the hit that knocked Sanders out of the game. Now, if you watch the hit, it's a legal hit, but it falls under the unprotected wide receiver, whatever the terminology is. But now here's the question. I've been fighting with this. If you have a wide receiver that's not paying attention and lays out to try to catch a ball, is it wrong for them to try to keep him from catching the ball? Because what everyone has said today is the defender's going to get fined because Sanders didn't have the opportunity to protect himself. But if he would have laid off on the hit, Sanders would have caught a big pass. So to me, it's like, where do you draw the line on the defenders are supposed to stop them from catching the ball? That's their job. And if the guy is going to put himself in the position to get a big hit, where Sanders was really, they said the main reason he got hit in the head is because he was laying out to try to catch it and extend it fully. I mean, it was a violent hit, but to me, I don't really see that big a problem with it. Is it just me?
Well, is that what the league has found, that it was defenseless player, or was it because there was some helmet-to-helmet contact or a combination?
Well, that's the thing, is they're saying there was helmet-to-helmet, but once again, if you watch, when the defender dove at him to keep him from catching the ball, Sanders started to lay out more. So he put his head in kind of the guy was going for a body tackle, and he put his head in the direct line of fire. So to me, it's like, I mean, I know it was a violent hit, and they're trying to keep these guys from getting concussions and ruining their careers and their lives after football, but it's just, I don't know. To me, I thought it was a good hit. So I just think it's getting a little crazy.
There comes a point where you got to admit that football is just a violent game.
Yeah.
I just...
See, I agree with you on that.
I hate to sound...
See, I honestly don't think Emmanuel Sanders could have caught the ball. I'm looking at... I found a site that has the footage. And, I mean, it looked like he probably would not have caught it.
Oh, yeah, it would have been an amazing catch if he had pulled it off.
Yeah. I think it was... Put it this way. I think it was a close call. There's no right or wrong answer, and I know that doesn't really... Everybody wants the right answer. And I don't think you can really find it, because the one thing we all agree on is it was a violent hit.
Oh, it was very violent.
Yeah. So if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's exactly what we see. Whether or not, he went too far, that's just another question that I suppose there are other people that have to answer. Yeah, they just showed the replay here in slow motion. I don't think he would have ever caught it. It was right on his fingertips, and then he gets hit. But I don't know that he would have brought it in. I mean, literally, it hit his very tippy-tip tips. And, for the life of me, seeing this in slow-mo, it was so clear. When they showed it at full speed, man, it happened fast.
Yeah.
Where did the ball hit him?
I'm sorry?
Where did the ball hit him?
The fingertips.
No, that's not what you
No,
said.
no. The tippy tip tips.
Tippy tip tips.
Tippy tip tips.
Tippy tip tips.
Just the tip. All right.
Okay. Move on.
But I agree. I mean, it's just too close to call. There's no like safe place to be on the call. If you sit there and say, "Oh no, he could do that," well, then potentially we're going to get more players sort of saying, "Well, you said I could do it, and it's pretty close." And I think they'd rather err on the side of, "Well, it happened, and we're going to penalize it."
Yeah,
That's all we can do. You have
they-
no control over it. We don't either.
They will. They are most definitely going to err on the side of caution more often than not. All right, so moving on, the Chicago Bears beat the Vikings. A nice bounce back win, the first win at home. Thank God a rookie quarterback was facing them. That's all I got to say. The Cincinnati Bengals, this game surprised me a lot because the Saints, I thought, were able to play offense at home at least, and they only scored 10 points. You guys have any insight on this game?
I can't really say that I do, but from the box score and from seeing some of the highlights, you have to say for the first time in a long time, it seemed like the Bengals showed up to play.
Jeremy Hill, 27 carries, 152 yards, controlling the clock, digging it.
Yeah.
They
got their passing game going, right?
Yeah, they still split this time of possession 30-30. But while the Bengals threw 3 touchdowns, Andy Dalton threw 3 touchdown passes, 16-22 for 220 yards. And Breeze had his usual 40-plus attempts, but only 255 yards. So the Cincinnati defense coming to play more than anything.
For sure, and they shut down Jimmy Graham. I mean, when you see him held to 29 yards, that just automatically says they showed up to play defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it really makes you look at them a little bit different, the Bengals, that is, and the Saints, too. I mean, when I was looking at that Ravens-Saints game, boy, I was kind of looking at it just a little bit different, saying well, maybe the Saints team isn't all that we're all giving them credit for.
And quick update, the Steelers have beaten the Titans 27-24. Le'Veon Bell, 204 yards and a touchdown.
Oof.
Wow.
That's a game.
That's just amazing. Just amazing.
Whoever made the trade to acquire him is a fantasy genius.
Yeah.
Just saying.
You know what's truly shocking to me, and I would love to get your guys' take on it, is the NFC South. Because we were just talking about the Saints, and I didn't get a chance to put in my 2 cents. But the fact that they're 4-6 and tied for first place with Atlanta, I mean, will a 7-win team win the South? Is that potentially going to be the winner of the NFC South, the team 7, maybe 8 wins?
Very possibly.
I believe the Saints won the division, went 7-9, and they ended up playing the Seahawks, where Marshawn Lynch had that famous run.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
I think you might be right. You look at the remaining schedules for these teams. I mean, Atlanta's sitting at 4-6, tied for first. They play home against Cleveland, home against Arizona, at Green Bay, home against the Steelers, at New Orleans, and then home against Carolina. Mike Smith should be fired after that stretch, whether you want to blame him or not. They're not going to win many games out of that. The Saints' remaining schedule is home against the Ravens, at Pittsburgh versus Carolina, at Chicago versus Atlanta at home, and then at Tampa Bay to close the season. So can they win 4 out of those games? They can beat Carolina. They could probably beat. They're at Chicago. I don't think they're going to win that game. They can beat Atlanta at home. I don't know if I don't know if they're going to be. I'm going to save my picks for the next segment. Whether they're going to beat Baltimore this week. See, you like that? That's drama right there.
Wow. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm on the edge of my couch.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So yeah, it's quite possible that a 7-win team is actually going to take that division. Steve, I want to answer your question.
Crazy.
In a roundabout
Crazy.
way. The Houston Texans beat the Cleveland Browns 23-7. Really surprised by this because I didn't think the Houston Texans were able to put up 23 points. Alfred Blue, you my boy Blue, 36 attempts for 156 yards. No touchdowns, though. Ryan Mallett in his debut, 20 of 30 for 211 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did have a pick, but we'll excuse him for his first NFL start.
And his first touchdown pass was an incredible catch
Yeah.
by J.J. Watt in the end. I mean, that was a full-on wide receiver